Welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking about Season 14, all of the stuff that the Gold Hoarders wanted to talk about. And I have some thoughts and some feelings on the current tools that we have in Season 14 and what I'm dubbing the Undercooked season. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that are supporting this content to make sure that you guys are having a wonderful experience and that I am able to take care of the bills. It doesn't have to be something that's required, but if you'd like to join in for these Gold Hoarder episodes, as many do on a regular basis, I always welcome it. It is open up to the captain's tier. It is one of those things where you get your own Discord channel to chat with other people. There's also the community through Patreon to chat over there as well. And if you guys are signing up, you always get the call outs. So I like to do these just to make sure folks know that I appreciate them, which is why, funny enough, I wanted to call out something that I messed up last week. So last week when I was doing the call outs, I always update a list. I've got a doc that I have everyone's names, their preferred names, nicknames, whatever they want to be called, they get to get called that in the episode. So as I go through and edit that list, I usually just kind of start from the top and work my way down to Zam. Wow. I skipped over on accident last week, Jeff H, and I don't know how, because I'm usually pretty good about going down the list, but every once in a while I'll miss someone's name. And he reached out over on Patreon, made a comment on the post in the Patreon website, and I apologized to let him know it was not on purpose and that I wanted to call attention to it this week. So we're going to read out the list, and I want to thank Jeff H right off the bat to let him know that his name matters to me. So thank you to A Chick, Toast, LQ, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Captain Longsharts, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Davrim TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Jorby Jorbs, J Hood, Carl Embo, who's traveling this weekend, Kylia the aficionado, who's taking care of her husband Nick. Rest well, Nick. Hope you feel better, buddy. Lumpy SRQ, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Oars, Xbox Mike 29, Mutinous Max, Norwegian, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Ribloid, Rust Belt Kid, Scamelt 666, Captain Dasm, Tommy D, TN Professor, Vibrolux, Wezzy Cruz, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, The Lore Chronologist, Deadeye Dre, Heger Owl, Jeff H, Captain Duckweed, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Brewski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore, the Insipid Ghost, and Zam. Wow. Thank you all so much. Also, shout out to Zam for calling out the meow at the end of last week's episode. Or was it last week's episode? No, because I think I was sick. But the week before that, I'm pretty sure, was the one that I had the little meow at the end. Cora's hanging out with me on the desk right now, and I'm frightfully afraid that she's going to touch something or hit something on the keyboard and mess up the recording. So I'm going to stop right now and let's get into it. Welcome everyone to the October Gold Hoarder episode for 2024. This is going to be a really interesting podcast, I think, because not only are a lot of folks are out and about right now. I myself am like on a timer because I'm going to be going out to do Halloween stuff because this is like the best time to probably go do that since it falls on a Thursday. So a lot of folks out this week as far as the Gold Hoarder episode goes, but ironically, there's not a lot really going on in Sea of Thieves to really talk about. So not too surprised. As many of you know, a lot of the content that was in the game or expected to be in the game for Season 14 has not actually been introduced or has been turned off. So we don't really have a whole lot that we can really speak to when it comes to content and our impressions for the season. But regardless, I wanted to take the opportunity to check in with everyone and kind of see how everyone's doing first and foremost, but also just to kind of get a gauge and see how people are feeling about this season, because I already have some ideas on what I think they could do to improve at least some of the things that has come to the season that I can speak to. So first and foremost, let's get some introductions out of the way. As always, Regis Stella is joining us. Regis, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good.
Good. Glad to have you. Rusty's joining us. Rust Belt Kid, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, just under the weather a little bit, but hanging in there.
I feel you on that one. I think took last week off because of COVID, and that was miserable. I did not like that. And of course, Big Bad Pad jumping in to help fill out the roster this week. Patty, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. Keeping it real for the Brits.
That's good. I wanted to kind of kick things off because, and Patty, you're coming in a little low. I'm not sure why.
2 seconds. It's
okay.
not better.
Let's see. Well, I'll let you know if I have to balance it out. I can always do it on my end because that's what podcasters do. This season, we've already had kind of an apology video come out from Drew, who had to come and address like some of the changes that they're going to do. I've seen a lot of people talk about decoupling features from seasons, which from a marketing standpoint doesn't make sense, but at the same time, the content that's coming is not coming in a state that's actually like playable. They've had to turn off traps. They've had to turn off crouching and disguises. What else have they tried to? I feel like there's something else I'm missing that they had to turn off.
They had to get rid of hanging off ledges.
Disguises.
Ledges. Yeah, that's what it was. It was the hanging off the ledges and the disguises and stuff. So, not when you look at the feature set and you see that all that's really made it to the game is Murfruit, and then the grapple gun and the blow dart. It does not really seem like it's very compelling to me that Sea of Thieves is on a nice upswing as far as content goes. Is that fair to say?
I think that the thing is, obviously, when Rare say this is what we're going to put into the game, this is what we're going to bring into it, and then they remove 2/3 of it, it doesn't look good for them. But what they have put in is good.
Yeah, I'm really kind of surprised to hear that, because this season has not actually been hitting too well. So I'm kind of curious to hear from you all. How Patty says that he's enjoying the content so far. How would you guys rate this content so far?
I mean, blow darts are pretty interesting because, well, a weapon with variety ammunition is pretty interesting. The grapple gun, I was questioning why the hell they would do it in the first place, but, slowly over time I realized that, okay, maybe this is like more traversal than actual combat-wise, despite our earlier fears. And then, was it the Murfruit that was the third thing that is only...
Yeah.
All right, well, people have been asking a way to get rid of mermaids while doing stealth missions for a while now, so that's pretty good. Just wish, the rest of the content was here. But I understand why they needed to fix it, because,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously... Oh, sorry, Logan.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Obviously, I've been gone, so I haven't really played anything in the last 2.5, maybe almost 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Living vicariously through, Twitter, so you know how that can be sometimes.
Yeah.
I think a little bit better than, the Reddit side, but the concept of the blow dart thing, I was liking and looking forward to. I mean, obviously I don't know how it's been working. The big thing that I had been questioning was the whole, Murfruit, how well it would work, and, if it's working. I really, I've seen a lot of going on, and, trying to follow what's going on in people's, comments online and stuff like that. You guys can speak on behalf of it with like the Murfruit and stuff and how it's really working. I'm trying to go through and see, exactly what they brought in and actually took out of the game for a second. Mm-hmm. But I'd be interesting to hear, especially with the Murfruit, like how that's been going and what from all of you that have actually been playing it, because that was one of my biggest things was like, hey, it's something that a lot of us have been talking about, with trying to board people in your mermaid. gives you away right away. Not that you can't hear somebody when they're boarding your boat half the time anyways, but I'm just curious to see what everybody feels about like how well it's actually been working, or if it's even been working that good.
Yeah. And I've had some, I have some interesting issues with a lot of that. So I'm going to reserve my own personal feelings for the moment, because I'm actually curious to dive into Patty's thoughts. You said that what they did put in was actually good. How are you feeling about things like the grapple gun, the blow dart, and the Murph route?
Well, put it into context. Normally I sail with 2 or 3 people, so we're normally on a brig or a galleon. They haven't been available for the last couple of weeks most of the time. So I've been doing a lot of solo slooping. Yeah. So the commendations linked to the blow darts have been my main thing for the last 3 or 4 days. And so, yes, it has been quite fun trying to get the skelly kills, going onto Snake Island and Crooked Mast, killing all the snakes with poison. And so, I'll give you Crooked Mast.
Thank you for acknowledging the one island that is one of the worst for snakes.
And so, yes, there has to be a little bit of context with obviously my comment about it's been good so far. It's been good for me. The Murph fruit, I couldn't give a monkeys. It's a pomegranate replacement. So it's good for me. We did see a science, and Mina found out that it was equivalent to a pomegranate, uncooked. I don't want to get rid of my mermaids. I don't do enough tucking. Because that's what it's going to be for, because they reckon it's around 2 minutes you lose your mermaids for.
Yeah.
I don't want to try and board somebody and then not be able to get back on any ship for 2 minutes. So I haven't bothered with... Yes, I have cooked it, I've eaten it, and just seen how, obviously, the repercussions of not being able to get a mermaid and having to sit in the water for 2 minutes fending off sharks. But yeah, the grapple gun, again, it's going to be more for traversal. I can't see it being a long-term PvP use. Yes, it's good to get on some ships, but it limits you then to one weapon whilst you're on the enemy ship. So again, I haven't been using it, but I can see that some people will. But yeah, no, I've definitely been having fun with the blow darts. And even when we have got a full crew, the amount of explosions going off on the ship at any one time is ridiculous.
Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. Russ, you got something?
I guess, and after hearing Patty say that in literally the simplest of terms, to be honest with you, it makes me think with what you said, Patty. If it's gonna take your mermaid away for even for a minute and a half, not even let alone 2 minutes, I obviously haven't tried it yet, so we'll see how well that works. But I feel like I'm with you, Patty, on that. Like, I don't want to try to board somebody's ship and now, I'm stuck for another 2 minutes to get back, and at that case, it's better off to just, actually get on, maybe anchor them and then just die anyways. Well, by that time, you're anchored back up, and it was pointless to get on there to begin with. I mean, if it's going to keep you away from your ship that long without you trying to die, and then, happen to go to the Ferry of the Damned and come back from that, I don't know if that's worth it. But I see what you're saying with, if you're tucking and, you've been tucking for, more of a streamer thing, I guess, maybe, so to speak. Or
I was going to say, it's definitely a streamer tucker thing. Especially for this season, because the Chest of Fortune's in the Fort of the Damned. And so obviously there will be a lot more people tucking on Fort of the Damned, waiting for people to finish it so they can just steal the chest.
Now, question would be, do we know if it, so say you eat fruit and your mermaid goes away and 2 minutes passes and you're tucking on the Fort of the Damned, can you just eat another piece and your mermaid will go back away?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll...
So long-term tucking would be feasible to just stock up on some of that and
and when they're cooked you can carry, I think is it 5 you can carry additional to 5 food.
Is it 4? I thought it was 5. I thought it was 5.
I thought it was 5, but I haven't tested that bit.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you're tucking on the Fort of the Damned, I mean, we've all played the game long enough to know that if you're tucking on the Fort of the Damned and you're actually trying to do the Fort of the Damned how much are you actually paying attention sometimes to whether or not there's a mermaid close by, especially on the Fort of the Dam. So, I mean, whether it's 4 or 5 fruits, I would think that'd be way more than enough to, last you 10, 15 minutes while somebody's doing the Fort of the Dam till you finally show face, or at that point, if you've been tucking that long, then you're probably going to be okay to PvP anyways. So I don't see, like I said, I don't see it working as well with just trying to board a ship. If that's the case, you might as well just let them run over your mermaid and let them know you're coming when you're trying to board the ship anyways.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get some thoughts out on this, because I've been doing a lot of thinking about these new fruits and weapons, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. I think they're undercooked ideas. No pun intended. The merfruit, the issue that I've definitely run into is exactly what Patty talked about. There's been plenty of times where I've wanted to test out the merfruit and we'll lead a ship into a chase, and I'll jump off the back to try and board. I'll eat the merfruit first, jump off, and then start swimming towards the ship. The number of times I've missed the ladder and been stuck out in the water whilst waiting to have the mermaid come has been a little get good. I get it. Grab the ladder. You don't have to worry about it. But the UI itself has been very finicky for me. So even after I eat the merfruit, not always does the little icon with the little dial kind of ticking down the time always show up. So I'll be sitting there swimming, trying to figure out why my mermaid hasn't popped. And then a few seconds later, after I'm completely frustrated, the little icon will pop up and show me that there's still some time left on the merfruit. And I'm like, oh, that's why I haven't gotten my merfruit or my mermaid yet. So right off the bat, the whole UI thing needs to be a little more stable, in my opinion, because it has been consistently inconsistent. The problem that I have with this fruit is that it is not something that caters to short-term use. And I think that they could fix this in a very easy way. Right now, the uncooked version restores a little bit of health, like a pomegranate, right, Pad?
Yeah.
If they were to have this separated, because it is separate from your normal fruit, I would say just completely separate it from your fruit altogether. Have it be a specialty item, no different than blender bombs and stuff. And what they can do is, if it is cooked, you can have the merfolk disappear the way it is currently. If it is uncooked and you eat it, it makes the merfolk buff disappear and your mermaid will pop. That way you can cancel the effect as opposed to having to actually wait it out. Because I think that's the reason why jumping off the back of a ship to hide your merfolk is something that is just not a tool that is currently working. So I would prefer it if they gave some functionality to the uncooked state and actually removed the buff as a result. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I could see that working. But like I say, it at the moment it's gonna have one use, and that is for people tucking on islands.
Yeah.
Or on other people's ships. But yeah, it's like multiple uses would then be, yes, I can use it as a fruit to just eat pomegranate type regain in health, or I could take the buff off and say, yeah, I want my mermaid back, please. Yeah. So yeah, I can see that working.
I like that idea. For some reason, when you were talking about it, I was thinking of it from a different perspective of not that this would work. This is too in depth, but even if I like the idea of okay, if it's uncooked, you just get health. For some reason, my mindset was oh, well, if it's uncooked, maybe you can just, you can hide your mermaid for 30 seconds. So that way, if you miss the ladder, you can still get your mermaid back real quick, compared to if it was cooked, it was okay, now it's gone for 2 minutes. That's the way my mindset was working for a second. But I like the idea of just where you're coming from, that of having multiple effects to it, especially just with gaining health rather than just your mermaid going away.
Either or would work, I suppose.
Yeah, I right. Honestly, an uncooked one for 30 seconds, I think would benefit for the short-term use just as well as the uncooked, removing the buff. Because right now, I think that's the biggest issue that I have with it, is that the timer is long enough if you're trying to like get somewhere. Like you can eat a couple of them and get to where you need to go without the mermaid popping. But the short-term use of it is just completely like not there. And it seems like that. And that's kind of why I go to the idea of these being a little undercooked as far as the ideas go. Because I feel like the potential is there. Like they have like the essence of what's a good tool in the game. But there's a certain amount of refinement that tells me that these have been in production for a while, but they just haven't had enough people talking about them to come up with different ideas based on, you know, what they had already initially like worked out when they first wanted to kind of put these together. As far as like
that sort of ties into your thoughts on Insiders from a couple of episodes ago, in the fact that there aren't the people doing it now. I used to do it on a regular basis. Every Friday evening, would spend an hour doing Insiders, along with either Mina or Matt or whoever was around. So there'd be like 2 or 3 of us doing it, and none of us do it anymore. Yeah. And I stopped because I got the full done on the rewards, so there was no incentive for me to do it. And sadly, I think there are so many people that have gone down that route and gone, well, what's the incentive for me to spend my time doing this, apart from obviously having a game that works when it does come in?
And I think that's a kind of a double-edged sword right there, because like I know, Patty, you and I talked about it when they revamped Insiders and said, okay, you know, fine, if you do it, you know, they're going to get rid of all the random weeks where, you know, you're not actually collecting, you know, things and you're just getting gold or whatever. And I said, well, maybe I can finally catch up, you know, and that was on me for not doing Insiders like I used to. And I was like, oh, finally I can catch up. But then I found myself not really doing it because, one, I was like, I don't really care about the cosmetics like I used to. And 2, it's like, well, I'm not going to spend week after week after week playing Insiders when it's like, okay, well, even if I get on Insiders, even if I do some of the stuff that's on there that's new that they want feedback on, well, if it works fine the 1 week and I have nothing to add to it, it's like, okay, well, if this is what they want, like, but, you know, at the same time, now with all the people that do have all the cosmetics from it, you know, what is the incentive to get on there? You know, I think the incentive would be to have a game that works. But the problem is obviously we don't have enough people actually.
A lot of it comes down to people having game time available to themselves. It's like, right, well, I'm different. In fact, obviously, I'm getting from work, I've had my shower and had something to eat and whatever, and I'm ready to game from 8 o'clock in the evening. And so, unless I've got something planned, which is very, very seldom, I'm on gaming. But the people I sail with have got limited game time because they've all got families or they've all got jobs they have to travel to and from, and so they only get an hour or 2 a night. And so, why would they, if they're not going to get rewarded for it, do spend time on a beta game when they could be playing a fully operational game, supposedly? I think a simple fix to that could be just give people ancient coin for playing Insiders for an hour or 2 or whatever. Even if it's just 30 ancient coins, it's what's that, 30p? 30 cents?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I think the moral of that story is Patty hasn't touched grass in like 6 years.
Oh, I touch grass all the time, but it's at work.
See, he gets paid to touch grass. Everyone else is doing it wrong. I really like the approach here. I do think it is very much the case that we don't really have a whole lot of reason to go in outside of just the nature of doing Insiders in general. The cosmetics were always a good drive because it showed the initiative that you were helping test the game, and this was your boast about it. I really hope that Rare takes a look at the Insider program and determines if this is something that's actually bringing in positivity to like what their process is, because as most of us know, a lot of those functions, a lot of those features that get tested in Insiders, those are pretty far along in the actual production pipeline. So realistically, they're looking for large data. They're looking for some feedback, but not everything is like the feedback itself is maybe 1 or 2, maybe four sprints out, which is roughly about a 2-week time frame per sprint, when they're working on doing fixes or testing different functionality with development. Like they only have about 2 weeks to work on a certain thing, and they kind of like have to test that out and see how things are going before they have to iterate on it again. So having it in insiders early helps kind of give them an opportunity to do multiple iterations on that feature while it is still in the production pipeline before it's just kind of ready to ship. I think that having the ability to discuss stuff on the insiders will help kind of add to the pool of knowledge. As always, the more ideas and thoughts that are in there are harder to help kind of filter through, but it's also possible that you're going to get really good ideas out of it. How often have many of us seen that a lot of the things that come out, everyone seems to have an opinion on, but some of those opinions are actually really good. And in the case with Hourglass, if not for, I think, the partners in the partner program testing and discussing and helping kind of work with the team to talk about some of the potholes in development that would have come, Hourglass would probably not have done as well when it first launched. Because there were definitely a lot of things that were attributed to the partners as far as like their insight when it came to the development for that feature. So all of that to say, I think it's up to Rare to really kind of bolster their quality assurance team. I think the problem that I'm seeing is that there isn't enough time for QA, or the QA is not working on breaking the game the way streamers and content or community members break the game. So, you know, if things are getting changed in the game and that brings an unintentional glitch, which allows us to traverse the world in a way that's not intended, that should have been something that should have been caught in QA. And maybe it was, and the devs didn't listen. So maybe there's a communication error there, and the QA team's actually doing their part. But there's a failing somewhere in the dev cycle that shows that there is not enough testing of the patches and the features that are coming that are being tested or developed or iterated enough on to be able to address some of the main issues that are currently plaguing the game right now. Which kind of brings me to the blow dart. And this one's going to be a little bit of a long stint, so bear with me. The blow dart I like. I think the different ammo types is really cool. Having the little black powder ones is fun. Having the lure dart is really unique, and having the poison dart feels like the sweet victory against snakes of crooked mass that I absolutely needed in my life. That being said, I hate the UI. I think the UI is poorly implemented, and I think that there's a much better way to go about this. So if you've used the blow dart, you can kind of walk with me as I kind of walk through how I think this should work. Currently, when you want to use the blow dart, you just equip it like you normally would, as if it were like a gun. You can right click or left trigger to ADS, and you will start to inhale deeply and get a full breath. The length of the time that you ADS and hold down that trigger, the further and straighter that dart will go. Make sense? Makes sense. Then you pull the right trigger to actually fire it. Here's where I think the change comes in. The left trigger and the right trigger do not need to be different buttons. You can hold the trident and you can hold down the right trigger, and it will slowly start to build up the charge of that bubble, right? You can also hold down the left trigger and it will just point the stick wherever you want to stick, wherever you want to fire it. You don't need that left trigger. I think you don't need the left trigger for ADSing with the blow dart. I think you can pull the right trigger quickly enough, or you can right click mouse the mouse button quick enough to get the quick fires that you want. But if you want to fire it long distance, you click and pull in the right trigger and you hold it. That will allow you to breathe in deep. And when you want to fire, you release the trigger and it blows the dart out. Does that make sense?
It does, because I'm sat in Sea of Thieves at the moment doing exactly trying to do that.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I agree. I agree as well.
So And here's the reason why I'm calling this out. I don't want the left trigger to be my ADS or my aim down sights for the non-layman, or for the layman. What I want is what I have with the cannons. It's what I have with instruments. It's what I have with fishing poles. I want a contextual radial menu that is a little circle, and it shows me all the little different ammo types that I have for my blow dart. And when I pull in that left trigger, it pops up. I can use my right trigger to select what I want, and then I can proceed with stuffing that particular dart into my blow dart gun. Let me have the functionality of aiming and firing it on one trigger. Let me have the ammo selection on the left trigger. That way, when I'm holding the blow dart, I don't have to pull open the equipment menu, hit a subsequent button to get me to the blow dart ammo. Because why does it need to be there when you can instantly have access to it on the left trigger? I rest my case.
Do you use them for PvP?
I have actually, and it sucks because when you run,
yeah, I was just about to say that if you're using it for PvE, which is all I've done with it really, is the menu as is fine. I can imagine when you're up against somebody else that you want the quicker availability of changing your blow darts.
Yep. Here's the caveat to that. One of the commendations that I've been working towards to try and actually like get it to pop, but it hasn't, is the one where you have to blow up 4 ghosts using a lure, or that are attracted to a lure dart. Sitting on a sea fort, I have tried this at least twice before I finally got too frustrated with it. And some of the videos
Have you done it since Thursday?
No.
It works now.
Okay. That has been one of my biggest issues. But the point still stands is that the hoops I have to jump through, the number of steps I have to go through from loading a lure dart to firing it to then loading a black powder dart and then firing that is far too complex. And the reason why people are okay with it is because most people are probably using it in PvE scenarios where you're not getting fired at by someone who's a crack shot from COD. You're getting sort of chased by some pretty slow skellies or some really annoying phantoms. And that's about it. So my goal here is to kind of point out, I think the blow dart is good. I think ammo types are fun. I think the issue is that this tool is undercooked. I think that you could very easily add the functionality of the L trigger and the R trigger for aim down sights and holding down the right trigger to determine how far you want that dart to go, all in one trigger, and then open up the contextual menu on the other trigger, which is now available to be able to choose the ammo the way I choose bait, the way I choose shanties, the way I choose cannonballs. That to me makes more sense.
Yeah, so like you say, you just treat it like a bubble stick.
Yeah, like it makes no difference to me why the bubble stick has an LDS and a right trigger to hold down and charge it up. You could easily do that with the blow dart, and I think that iteration would make it a lot more interesting in my opinion. The other thing that I wanted to jump into was the grapple gun, unless you guys have any other thoughts about the blow darts.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know about you guys. The grapple gun sucks. It is just not a good traversal tool. I don't know why the length of that gun is so bad, but there have been multiple times where I've wanted to try and use it to get to a shipwreck where the ship's harpoon can reach a shipwreck and the loot. Meanwhile, me sitting here with my grapple gun trying to take advantage of the new tool is standing on the bowsprit trying to harpoon the exact same loot, and it does not reach. And I have to wonder, am I the only one that's annoyed with how short the distance is for the grapple gun when trying to like harpoon stuff?
Do you really want it to be like Call of Duty and Halo?
I honestly, if they're going to introduce it, I do, because otherwise it's going to be a dead tool for me.
The thing is, back in the day, the grapple gun wasn't. Yes, fine. A harpoon would obviously attached to a ship would have a very long and strong rope.
Yeah.
Firing it myself,
But I guess that's what I'm looking at it from the perspective of, even though I haven't used it, just listening to what you said, I guess I'm coming from 2 different standpoints here. From a video game perspective, I understand 100% where you're coming from. It's like if you're going to put something like that in the game, it's got to be kind of in a video game world, almost, mimic to what you already have, or at least that's what you think or want to happen. I think if we're thinking, in a realistic world, and if we had an actual pirate, gun like that compared to the actual harpoon on the front of the ship, with what Patty said, like, your harpoon on the front of your ship, it's just like, any kind of ship, even if a modern ship, if you had a harpoon gun on the front of your ship, it's going to have a heftier rope. It's going to go farther. It's going to go, it's going to have better mechanics to it compared to, something you're pulling out of your back pocket here and, just trying to shoot onto something. So I can understand both sides of it. I kind of, even though not using it, I don't think I'd be upset if it was a weaker, version of what you have on the ship. Mm-hmm. But I also understand the concept of like Patty used Halo, right? I understand the concept of wanting it to almost mimic what you already have. Like, I guess that's where you come from the video game perspective of like, hey, like this doesn't have to be realistic, right? Like we can have something that's completely, kind of crazy in concept and still give you the same effect that the front harpoon on the front of your ship would have.
Yeah. And to be honest, I understand like the ramifications of having someone be able to have a much longer reach with the harpoon gun than what it currently has. I think some of the troubles that I run into are the other limitations that come with the harpoon gun at the moment. If you miss grappling something, it costs an ammo and you only get 5. If you hit something that you can't attach to, you lose ammo. It is also a weapon that you have to take into account is not actually a weapon. It is just a traversal tool. So given that I am going to be giving up some sort of weapon for this, I need this to have some changes that feel like it is more balanced based on the already limitations that they've put on it. Like I can't harpoon the mast on my sloop for fun. And I get that they're like, they don't want people on brigs and sloops to be able to have access to the harpoon to be able to like get onto the boat easier. But it's my ship. Like, why does my harpoon gun have the same limitations on my ship? I'm just trying to understand why I'm sacrificing so much for something that doesn't even offer the same range as a standard harpoon. Because the standard harpoon on the boat, yeah, it goes further, but it's also limited in its angle. Like you can't shoot behind you with the harpoon gun. You can't do a 360 view with it. Like you've got 2 on the front and there's about 90 degrees or 180 degrees range on that, but even then there's still a small portion of the bowsprit that is blocked off, so it's not even a full 180, or maybe it is because it does go a little bit beyond that. But that's kind of my main concern right now.
And I think if you're giving, the concept of giving up, another weapon for said instrument, so to speak, right, then I can understand the want of like, okay, I'm giving up a lot here, so now if I get stuck in a PvP battle, now I'm stuck with like a little grappling gun that, is a quarter of what, I would with the front harpoon. But at the same time, now I don't have 2 weapons on me. Now I have 1 weapon. So I understand giving up a lot there. It kind of reminds me of like, the video you see on like TikTok and stuff of like, a smaller person throwing a javelin, and the next thing you know, it goes to, a guy standing there and a toothpick lands on the table or something. Like you're getting, a quarter of what you put into it, right? Like, I mean, so I see where you're coming from that, and it that would concern me. Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like something that I'm probably never going to use outside of just messing around with a couple times, because I'm not going to give up unless if you overpower it a little bit more. I'm not going to give up 2 weapons for a tool that isn't really effective for anything that I'm going to do.
I will say that it's not completely useless. Like I have used it mostly for traversal since trying it in PvP, and there's been a lot of times where I'm like, oh, it is nice to kind of like be able to get from one point to one point. The biggest issue that I'm running into, and maybe Patty, you can speak to this, I don't know what the range is on this thing. So if I'm pointing at a tree and I'm too far away, not only do I lose the ammo, but I had no way of knowing how far that distance was. And I would love it if, and you know, God forbid anyone have a reticle in this game. I would love for there to be a reticle for the harpoon gun that is white if it doesn't, if it's not going to hit, and then red if it is going to hit whatever you're aiming at, to give you some sort of indicator, or even just like a reticle that shows up when you are within range of actually hitting something. So that way I'm not needlessly testing whether or not the distance that I'm at is the length of the actual grapple gun. And Patty, maybe you can help me with how that comes across.
I'm sat currently at Galleon's grave with my harpoon from the sloop attached to the weapons shop. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to use the grapple gun to get as close as I can to my ship. It's probably about half the distance.
Yeah.
From the weapon shop to the so it's half the distance of the harpoon on the ship distance you can shoot.
Okay.
It's still quite a distance, but it's not going to help me do anything in terms of a battle.
Yeah.
Unless we are literally next to each other, this is going to be no help whatsoever.
Yeah. The couple times I've been able to use it is typically to get away from someone. So usually I'll get on a boat. I'll be able to fire a couple blow darts at them to whittle them down with like poison damage. And then they come at me M1 spamming their sword. And I use the grapple gun to get to the other side of the boat real quick. That is effectively what it is. But the reload time on the grapple gun does not afford a whole lot of leeway.
No, I can see it helping clear loot out of forts or things like that. Because obviously, normally when you park at either Fort of the Damned or any of one of the forts, if you can get to a harpoon range from your ship, that's where you tend to put the loot.
Yeah.
So in terms of that, I can see that the grapple gun either getting you back to the island or getting loot from the island onto your ship can help. But again, it's minimal use.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that misses and attaching or areas where you can't attach to consume ammunition, I think is a fail point in there. I don't think it should consume ammo if it misses or if it doesn't attach to something, because otherwise what's the point of the gun? You could hit four of them on things that don't hit, not knowing what points, because there's no indicator on anywhere in the game that tells you like, oh well, this is not something you can attach to. The number of times I've tried to attach to a ship thinking that it should attach to a ship has been a little too much for my taste, whereas most of the things on an island are totally fine. And I'm like, okay, I get it. This is a tool that is mostly going to be for traversal around an island if I need to get up somewhere. But we already have harpoons. We already have cannons. So how much is this tool really benefiting me? It's kind of like rope walking loot. Like rope walking loot is nice, but it's usually faster just to harpoon it. So unless I'm trying to take loot off of it, chances are that's going to be the only use case in that rope walking situation.
Yeah, you can stand on the bowsprit and shoot at barrels of plenty. That's about it, really.
Yeah. So those are some of the, and that kind of goes back again to my main point and theme on this is a very undercooked tool. I think that there needs to be more refinement to help kind of educate people on how to use this as opposed to trial and error, which is honestly, if you put me in the game and I see a lot of misses with this gun, I'm not going to find a whole lot of value in this thing. I'm not going to understand why it's even in the game, and it's going to sit in the weapons locker for the rest of the game.
Yeah, a bit like most of our cosmetics.
Yes. At least until they get loadouts, and then loadouts will actually give us a way to build out costumes. So I wish I could be more positive about the state of the game at the moment. I wish I could have opinions on traps. I wish I could have opinions on the crouching when I did get to use it, because it was unique and interesting. It was very, very interesting to sneak around islands with enemies on them. It was even more interesting the fact that disguises allowed you to drop aggro from enemies by breaking line of sight. I thought that was fantastic. I can't wait for that to come back. There are a lot of things in the game that I think this season did well so far, but overall, I would say that this season just feels very undercooked. That there's a lot of things that I think still needed a lot of iteration and work on, and they could very easily turn this into a great season with some of the changes that I think deserve to be implemented for the tools. How are you guys feeling?
Yeah, I get the feeling that this season, like you said, was undercooked, and some of the things they added in, like the grapple gun, were questionable at best. But yeah, this season, I think this has been like, a pretty bad season, and what has mainly been like a pretty good year for Sea of Thieves in general. But yeah, just this season 14 is not going to be well regarded as like the season of very interesting developments for the game, but more like the season that is send Rare back. Yeah,
the ideas were there.
Yeah, the idea was there.
The whole theme.
I think that it's got to the point where I think they're using the actual retail game as their insiders now, because there's so much gets broken within the first 2 days of it being launched that it just does seem that there is something missing from the QA side of the game.
That's a real it's a point. It's a very salient point right now, because it does feel like the number of data, or the amount of data that they receive from live is a lot higher than insiders. And it's much easier for them to come out and say, hey, this didn't hit our expectations, we'll fix it, than just take time to better test this and let the team actually have more time if they need to. Because based on conversations within the Discord, it seems like everyone was okay with them decoupling the features from this season and just launching the season with a new Plunder Pass and cosmetics.
I think where they've fallen over, especially for this season, is they had all this stuff and they've advertised all this stuff as being available in season 14. And we as the customer have got used to it being, it comes out at the beginning of the season. Everything comes in one go. They could have, if they'd have known prior to obviously release that they had problems with certain things, said, yes, this is coming in season 14, but you're not going to get it all in one go.
Yeah.
I feel like, and maybe it's just me, but I feel like no developers are doing that. Like it's just like, hey, here's everything. This is what we promise. It's coming out. And then if it's broken, it's broken. They either try to fix it or they take it away and try to fix it. And then it's just a matter of, how long until it comes back. But I feel like that's just, it almost feels to me like an industry thing at this point. Like, is that on the consumer for letting that happen? Is it on, who's it on? I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and bash Rare or anything like that. I mean, anybody that knows me long enough knows that like I've never been one to so-called kiss Rare's butt, so to speak. And I'm not saying that in a negative term towards anybody else, but I've always screamed and hollered like, hey, let's fix the stuff that's in the game. Let's you come out with some things here and there, that's fine, but like time and time again, for me at least, Rare's like, oh, here's all this stuff, and then it seems like it's either broken or it's not what we're expecting. It doesn't mean I'm not going to not play the game. I've been playing a lot less, both in season 13, and obviously I haven't even started this season yet. I'm finding myself playing a lot less than I have before. And the caveat to that would be, yes, I mean, we are busy and we're not all on as much as we used to be. But it's the same perspective of like, I used to have the mindset of like, okay, well, there's not a lot going on in the game, so I'm going to just work on these combinations. And I've even got to the point now where I'm like, I don't know if I even care anymore. Like, I love the game and I want the game to succeed and I want it to go on longer, but I'm like, I'm to the point to where I'm almost like, okay, like, when is it time? Like, this is the game I've played the most ever in my whole life. And I almost feel I've had this weird pit in my stomach now of like, okay, when is it going to be my last time playing Sea of Thieves? Because at least for me, every time I turn around, it's always something. And I'm not saying that's anybody specifically's fault or anything like that. And I know
names.
People are going to say, "Oh, well,
I want names."
I'm not going to name names.
Whose
or
fault
anything like
is
that,
it?
Alex,
Alex, it's Grengar's fault. Everything's Grengar's fault. Everything will be Grengar's fault till the day I die. I will blame him for everything. No, but then no, like I said, it's not a bash on the rare or anybody on the team or even the community for that matter. I think a lot of us, we always have that we've been playing this game for so long. We have high expectations. We've seen what Rare can do. We've seen what they do when it doesn't work. Typically, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Typically, when something's broke, Rare will eventually fix it. Some things take longer than others. And I'm not in that industry, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, why didn't you fix this right away? Look, I don't know anything about that. I'm just here to play the game. It's gotten to the point to where, once again, are we at that development stage where we need to stop developing for the older consoles and finally move over to the new world, so to speak? So I don't know. Like I said, I can go in circles with that for 20 minutes, but people are going to say I'm a Debbie Downer on it, that I just, but I don't know. Rare seems to let me down time and time again with not having things work the way they're supposed to. And it's not just them. Like I said, it seems like an industry-wide thing when it comes to gaming at this point in our lives.
I do see what you're going on about as far as like a lot of games have been coming out. Like Call of Duty Black Ops just launched. That game is really fun. I've been having a really good time with it, but I have been running into a lot of issues. Settings not retaining, saves not saving, crashes, actually, like integrity issues, matchmaking not working properly. It doesn't detract from the fact that it's still a really fun game when I am playing it. And I feel like Sea of Thieves is in that state. When I'm playing it, most of the time, I can overlook a lot when it comes to bugs, weird issues. The number of times any of us have said, that the game is perfect. It's a feature, not a bug. There's no problems. I don't know what you're talking about. Has definitely like been more of a joke or a passing comment about, okay, well, it's an issue, but it's not a game breaking issue. I think there definitely needs to be a threshold of not game breaking issues that need to be recognized and addressed so that the game is in a state where people aren't frustrated to playing it. Because if I'm being 100% honest, until crouching comes back and they've figured out like when a timeline is going to be for traps and stuff, I'm off Sea of Thieves. Because there's plenty of stuff for me to do. I mean, just hit legendary Hunter of the Sea of Thieves. I'm definitely working on my raid voyages for Gold Hoarders and starting to work on like Merchant Alliance stuff. But until the server issues get kind of worked out, because it's still kind of buggy, until they figure out why like crouching isn't working, all the exploits that were brought back as a result that they had to turn off crouching because of that. I don't want to get frustrated playing Sea of Thieves. So for me, the easiest answer is stop playing Sea of Thieves for the time being. Let them work on it, let them do it, and jump into something else. Call of Duty's right here. The Dragon Age Veilguard is next week. Plenty of other games for me to jump into. Diablo 4, almost done with my season pass for Diablo 4. Plenty of things for me to jump into right now that aren't going to frustrate me the way Sea of Thieves is at the moment. So I'm taking a break from Sea of Thieves because the devs need time to work on it. And if that's the case, then I'm going to let them cook and finish up this season so that they can actually relaunch it with all of the stuff that they wanted to bring in and have it work. Then continuously frustrate myself by trying to do things that are going to cause issues or make me frustrated, like storage crates that were introduced to be able to sell now. For some reason, some sell, some don't. Don't know why. Can't figure it out. Had to report it. But
I used to play Sea of Thieves religiously, like, oh, I'm just gonna play Sea of Thieves because I want to get these cosmetics, complete the Plunder Pass, and do all this kinds of stuff. But then I realized halfway through season 12, I think, like, I realized that, oh, I'm playing this because out of, necessity, or just what's the word? Because I would FOMO, fear of missing out, basically. And I realized that I'm like, okay, I'm not playing to have fun. I'm playing it because I'm missing out. I'm gonna miss out on these cosmetics that may come out a year from now, honestly. So now I play Sea of Thieves. I don't play Sea of Thieves like once a week or once a day, but I do play whenever I feel like, okay, I'm gonna jump in the game, see how it is, and just mess around with it once in a blue moon kind of thing.
Yeah.
It used to be, you know, all things aside, with some people not being as available now, but it used to be, you know, almost an everyday thing. You know, life's changed. We understand. Like, I understand that people's lives change. Sometimes we get busy. Sometimes we don't. You know, my life's about to change dramatically on Monday. So, like, I'm going to have a lot less time at home in the afternoons. No, believe me, I still have plenty of time, because by the time I'm done, I'm still going to be home by like 6 o'clock. So
no, I just mean like there's still time for you to get out of it. Like, you don't have to.
Oh, no. It's a major commitment. It's a major reward. No, it's a major commitment that I want to be involved in.
So you mean trophy?
It's a major trophy. No, it's an award. Fragile. Jeez. But with that being said, it used to be, for me it was, Regis, like Regis said, for me it was FOMO, but I enjoyed it. I was like, you know what? I got to try to play every day. And then you realize, like, holy crap, we are, you know, we're not the streamers that are playing 8-10 hours a day, but we're in the 0.001%, right? We're playing a lot. Now it's to the point to where it's like, for me, it's like my known commodity in life. It's the one constant in the last 6 years where I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to play, but I really don't want to play alone. And unless if the people I know are on, like, I'm not going to go out of my way to find other people to play with, because, is it going to be just as fun? You know, how's the play going to be? And it's like, you know what? If my people aren't on, or people that I am comfortable with sailing with, it's like, whatever. I'll go do other things. I'll go build Jen's bookshelves that are taking me 3 weeks to build. I mean, I'll do something else. Like, it's just
3 weeks.
Yeah, but I was gone for a week and a half of it. With, you know,
okay,
if that helps.
2 weeks. We'll give it a generous 2 weeks then.
And it's IKEA, so it's not like it's, you know, it's like building Legos.
Oh my god!
But
really, I'm like sitting here thinking like, oh, you gotta like machine it out. Yeah, that makes sense. You gotta get the dowels. You gotta stain it.
It's like building Legos.
Oh my god!
It's the same bookshelf that Patty has, and if Patty can put it together, anybody can put it together.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you to take an Adderall and just get that done.
That would probably help me tremendously. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just to the point now where it's like, you know, if people that I enjoy playing with or have played with in the past aren't on, what's the point? And like, I'm like, whatever. I'll there's 1,000 other things I could be doing.
College football.
Well, yes, I am playing college football a lot. So I'm watching it and playing it at the same time. So there you go.
Yeah. Patty, you said that you've had your sailing friends less available, but you're still jumping in from time to time. Do you think that Rare is going to be able to salvage this in the long term, or do you feel like they really need to address something internally? And this is just going to be indicative of the next couple updates.
Like everybody else in this room, I'm not a developer. I have no computing skills whatsoever, apart from I know how to break things, which is why I did Insiders, because I would find things that didn't quite work properly. I hope that it improves. I know that the staff at Rare are obviously doing their damnedest to make sure that things come out as they should. But I think that they have made a rod for their own back with the, and I'll inverted commas, the spaghetti code of the game. Yes, supporting older consoles. Yes, on Unreal 4, not Unreal 5. There are a lot of things that could, from an outside perspective, look as though improve and make it easier for the developers, but obviously that's a lot of investment and time. Do they make Sea of Thieves 2 and sort out all the code issues they've got on Unreal 5 and do away with everything that is holding it back? I don't know. Like I say, my gaming time hasn't changed dramatically. The games I play has, because the people I play with, their game time has changed.
Yeah.
So yes, I do find myself playing a lot more single player games again, or jumping into Sea of Thieves and doing my blowpipe commendations, or like you say, like you doing the Gold Hoarder commendations, getting all the trinkets done and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that they can, but it's just how long it's going to take them to get it to that point.
Yeah. And something tells me that with the change up in leadership over at Rare, there is going to be a strong incentive for positive numbers, growth, and an expectation with the two co-leads, with Joe Neat and Jim Horth, I believe. They need to prove that they can handle running the studio, and the game's success for Rare is Sea of Thieves doing well and seeing positive growth. Because otherwise, why did they have Craig leave to go pick up his new role as like head of Xbox games, if he was going to leave the game studio in shambles? I don't know that we are going to see a strong push for Sea of Thieves to either migrate over to Unreal 5 or for them to come out with Sea of Thieves 2 until whatever is going on with Everwild finishes. Because at the moment, Sea of Thieves is the cash cow in this scenario. It's what's keeping that studio's income flowing. So until Everwild comes out and that's alleviated a little bit, I don't expect them to make any major game changes that are going to potentially impact the stability even further or cause multiple issues through migration to a new engine version or just a new game in general, without having some sort of safety net in the success of another game, if that makes sense. Like I don't know that Microsoft wants to bankroll them for 5 years while they work on Sea of Thieves 2. And maybe that's what they're doing. You know, who knows? Maybe they've got the developers working on Sea of Thieves 2 right now, and that's why so much is getting messed up in Sea of Thieves 1. Who knows?
Catch me up real quick. I don't know. For some reason, I don't remember what I heard. Are they still developing for Xbox One, technically?
Yeah. I mean, Xbox One is still included within Sea of Thieves, and it's still,
because I know multiple development teams across video games have expressed a lot of negativity towards having to develop for Xbox One and the S. I don't remember if I even heard with the Series S with some development teams. I might be a little bit wrong on that, so don't hold me to that. But I know like there's a lot of concern about having to constantly develop for the older consoles. And I think, obviously, I think that's a huge thing to start. I think you have to, in my opinion, you'd have to look at if you're going to move on from something. I think you need to try to move on from that first before you even talk about Unreal Engine 5. I think both, stopping development for those older consoles and moving to Unreal Engine 5 might be the answer to some of the problems, not all, but some of the problems. As for Everwild, dead game, never coming out. Quit believing in it. It's not even a thing.
I don't know, because I genuinely do think that the game itself was developed on Unreal 4 and that the specs for it still take into account Xbox One. I don't know what it would change to remove that. I don't know if they would be able to change up the performance requirements so that they could utilize the newer hardware more. I know that the number of Xbox Series X and S in the wild outside of and PlayStation 5 is still not nearly the number of, well, I'm actually going to hold off on that because I'm not going to speculate what I don't know. So I'd be very curious if that were to happen, if it would happen at a point where they are for sure knowing that they're losing fewer people by dropping that support than they are if they just kept them and cut them off. Because at the moment, I imagine that there's still a lot of Xbox One and One S gamers out there. We just don't know what the numbers are to be able to speak to that.
You're definitely going to see, obviously I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know for a fact you're going to see a lot of, and I think this is a negative thing, but you're going to see a lot of One and One S's in households from the last maybe month and a half over the next like 6 months, because companies like GameStop and a couple other companies put them out for sale for like an astronomically low price and are selling out of them. I do have a little bit of insight on that. I do know there are a lot of, especially from the GameStop standpoint, there are a lot of the districts, at least east of the Mississippi, that like are completely out of them. They put them up for a ridiculously low price, and you got people calling state to state to try to find them because, obviously demand is high. They're not going to, a lot of times you can't keep up enough to try to look back online to see if they're available. So you got people calling store after store after store just in hopes that somebody came and traded one in and they're going to put it back out for sale for like dirt cheap. And that's a whole other thing with what GameStop is doing as a store nationally anyways, and how they're moving forward with their plan going forward. So you are going to see a lot of One and One S's, I think, because I guess sometimes us in this room might not see it as much. I know I saw it when I worked at a GameStop for a long time. I was always like, oh, the new system's been out for a few years. Yeah, it really hasn't gone down in price, but like, come on, like you got to be able to afford one now. And sometimes you forget that, like, I am privileged in the sense that, like,
500 quid.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I have to understand that, like, $500 to me or $400 or whatever to me is different than it is to somebody else. And I've been privileged enough in my life that, like, if I want a system, I'm just going to go buy it. Like, I don't have to wait week in and week out to save money. That's why you see on Marketplace, you see, these systems go out there and it's like, somebody's mom buys a kid an Xbox One with 40 games. Half of them are sports games that are 5-6 years old, but that mom doesn't care. She's just buying the system because it's cheap and now my kid's got a bunch of games. So, yeah, but like I said, you are going to see a lot more of those two systems hitting homes over the next few months. I think until that kind of dies off. Now, I don't think that is going to equate to maybe, new people playing Sea of Thieves, because if you have all this negativity going on with the stuff they're bringing out, what kid's going to want to be like, oh, I'm going to go download this game. Well, but all I'm hearing is negative stuff about it, So I don't know. We'll see though.
I kind of want to round out the conversation on this point. I was doing an Xbox expansion pass earlier today. And I had one other podcaster from another podcast, and then the lead editor for a gaming website on with Luke and I. And I wanted to ask them because the topic came up at the end of the podcast, like if there was any other news going on. And I wanted to talk about how Sea of Thieves is not doing really well right now. And I wanted to get a gauge with them who are, following the game industry. Had they'd heard about this? Nothing. Crickets. No one outside of Sea of Thieves right now knows how bad season 14 is going. I do not venture to guess, even if the people that are helping cover video game knowledge and talking about news don't even, like, it doesn't even cross their purview that Sea of Thieves is not in a good state right now. I can't imagine that translates over to anyone that is a casual gamer purchasing the game. And there's a good chance that the people purchasing the game or playing the game through Game Pass probably don't even understand what is considered a bug or not a bug, because many people run around with a Reaper markup thinking it looks cool.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying there, but at the other side of that makes me worry, because we've heard time and time again, oh, the player base this, and we have this player base and this player base. And I've said this for years now. I'm not saying I'm right on this, but I've said this for years now. unless if you've been playing Sea of Thieves, I don't think anybody gives a crap. Like, I really don't. Like, I mean, I think some people over the last couple of years have, like, if you come in, like, and I agree with what you're saying, what's the difference between a bug and just, the mechanics of something? Obviously the casual person that downloads it from Game Pass and plays it is not going to know the difference. But if you have a bad experience because something's not working or something doesn't seem right, like, if you haven't played the game for 4 to 6 years, like, you're not going to come back to that game, which is even more worrisome. That it's like, okay, well, where do you go from there? Yeah. So I don't know. That just makes me worry. If the gaming industry, and obviously there's a lot of games out there, we all know this, that people don't talk about that are great games. We see it time and time again, or games that go a year or two, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh man, like, you didn't play that game 2 years ago? Like, you need to play it now. And then it becomes a popular thing again. But it just worries me for a game that's supposed to be, such a big thing for Xbox. And it's like, if people in the gaming industry aren't talking about it, whether it's good or bad, that worries me even more, because it's like, okay, do people give any crap about the game at all at that point, outside of the people that have been playing it for a long time?
Yeah. And I think that is definitely a marketing issue. I think a lot of people tend to overlook the marketing that is done, at least for the Xbox showcase, when Sea of Thieves has their traditional, like, little insert into the, hey, this is an update for games that are already out right now, alongside Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online kind of thing. So it remains to be seen how this will pan out. If I want to speak broadly, I think that there's a good chance that this will go over as a bump in the road. But at least to the fans, this feels like an additional failing from the dev team, who are not taking the time that they really ought to ensure that launches are meeting their own expectations, as well as the community's. Did any of you guys have anything that you wanted to talk about before we kind of wrap things up here?
I just wanted to say, obviously, in regards to you talking to the two guys on the podcast about obviously bumping the road on Sea of Thieves and nobody knows about it. I think, to be perfectly honest, unless you play the game, you're not clued into, as a casual, or even as a non-casual gamer, but as a casual gamer, unless you're playing the game, you won't hear anything. I haven't played Destiny for 2-3 years. I haven't got a clue what's going on in it. I don't know if it's good or bad. Unless I'm playing the game, and I know, obviously, with Sea of Thieves that there are issues, I won't hear anything about any other game unless I go looking for problems and Google Destiny technical development issues or whatever. Yeah, you're not going to find it, and so people don't know. I think that's general across all games. If you don't play it, and it's not the AAA game like Call of Duty. Obviously, if there's a Call of Duty problem, 9 times out of 10 you're going to hear about it, because there are so many people out there playing it, and even sometimes it will make it national news. But in terms of, while Sea of Thieves is supposedly a AAA game, it's not Microsoft's a game.
I guess that's the other side of it too, is if you're not listening to video game podcasts or watching video game media or watching YouTube, stuff on YouTube about the video game industry, you're not going to notice it as much. Because I noticed, like, just in the last couple of weeks, I've unfollowed some major video game podcasts that I used to listen to, for various reasons why I refuse to support them anymore. But and now that I'm not listening to video game podcasts, like, at all, my video game knowledge just in the last 2 weeks alone has dropped tremendously. So if you're not paying attention to those podcasts or those articles or the media when it comes to the video game industry, then you really won't hear much about anything, unless if it's AKA a major sports game or Call of Duty.
Yeah. No, those are all fair points. So I guess it's really is just kind of dependent on Rare to try and showcase their content a lot more. There's only so much that social media and YouTube is going to really allow them. They really need to have some stronger backing when they know they've got good content coming, like Legend of Monkey Island, like Pirates of the Caribbean. Remember, Pirates of the Caribbean dropped in Disney was advertising Sea of Thieves for the content that they had put out. You know, it was amazing. And to be perfectly honest, I think expansions like that to the game are worth touting and definitely bring in a lot of people to play the game, to check out that content. So I don't know what Rare does to bolster the player base, or if they're comfortable with where the player base is, and that they just need to have the content hit a little bit better to ensure that people are satisfied with the lighter content drops that they do to the game. But it definitely doesn't feel positive right now. And I think that that's the thing that I'm hoping gets turned around.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Really hoping so too.
Was there anything else you guys wanted to jump into before we head out?
All good.
Okay. Alrighty. Well,
Grengar sucks.
Wow. Dropping the bomb. With that, guys, thank you so much for joining me. As we head out, Regis, anything you want to shout out or showcase?
Well, I just like to know to everyone who somehow follows me. I now have a Blue Sky account. In fact, I had it for like a year now, ever since Twitter decided to go down the drain, basically because of the elongated muskrat that runs it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That's an insult to Elon Musk, you bastard. Oh, sorry. So yeah, I now have a Blue Sky account, and for those who want to follow me on there, go ahead. I already have like 10 followers 11 followers based on Sea of Thieves. People like I got Becky, I got Leator, Music Me, Godhammer as well, Carembo as well. So yeah, pretty cool. So if anyone wants to follow me there, then go ahead there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm moving over to Blue Sky. I'm kind of done with Twitter. There's like one group chat that I'm in that I really just have to keep up on from creator standpoint, but outside of that, it's not that great. I'm tired of all the negativity over there. It's much nicer from Blue Sky, where I can continue to see people having good conversations.
Yeah, and and fun fact, the block button on Blue Sky actually works, unlike Twitter. Again, elongated muskrats were fault.
Yeah, it's not worth getting into. Rusty, we're heading out. Anything you want to shout out?
No, not really. I'm an old fart, so I'm definitely still on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. With that being said, nothing really. I just hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody stays healthy, as I know my wife and I have been a little under the weather a bit lately, but it's still 90 degrees and sunny, even though we both don't feel that well. So yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty. Patty, you're having fun, right?
I am.
Okay, good. That's all I care about.
I'm still enjoying the game.
I still enjoy it. I want to wait till they get everything sorted. And if that takes a week, if it takes 2 weeks, have at it. I'm going to spend some time catching up on other stuff for the time being. And then I'll go.
See, I'm a commendation hound, so I have plowed on through getting what's in the game done.
I mean, I'm right there with you. It's mostly the stability and kind of weird quirks that have happened recently that I'm just like, I'm kind of waiting for them to work that out, because I've been on the same grind. I've been working on war chest stuff, as well as there's one other build rack commendation that I'm trying to sync up with, like Order of Souls. There's like 3 things that I'm working on at once. That I'm kind of planning with around the commendation. So I'm definitely working on those. It's just having a hard time not feeling like things are working the way as intended, but that's okay. It's gonna vary based on who's playing what, when, and where, on what hardware and stuff. So if you're having a good time, I definitely encourage you to keep playing. If you're not, there's always alternatives. You can always jump on and do other stuff as well too. But with that, Patty, is there anything going on that you're doing that you're going to be joining up with, like Sightless or Davram anytime soon?
No, Sightless is doing Diablo 4 this weekend. Okay. I think he's on Sea of Thieves the following weekend. So no, I have a weekend of my own.
Wow, that's wild. You're going to stay up late as usual?
Yes. Stay up late, get up late. Jump on early again.
And with that, Pirates, thank you so much. Make sure you're taking care of yourself and getting plenty of rest and not being like Pad right now. But with that,
Go touch some grass.
Go touch grass. If you can get paid to do so, definitely do that. I thought I saw Sightless playing Dead Space the other day, which was kind of weird. It was not. It's a scary game that I most definitely would not want to jump into. But anyway, Pirates, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you all so much to the Gold Hoarders that showed up. And if you couldn't make it, I'm definitely sad. Hopefully we'll get a chance. I will probably be doing the next week or the next Gold Hoarder episode. We'll have to do a week early because of Thanksgiving time in the United States. Typically a pretty tough weekend to try and get people rallied together to be able to do so. Right now, I think it is currently scheduled for November 23rd. That will probably get edited to actually be the 16th. So in 3 weeks, we will probably be meeting back up to see what's changed in Sea of Thieves. All right, Pirates, that's going to do it. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you all later.